To benefit beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Now let's talk about the classic of filial piety. Some historical records say it was written by Confucius. During the Southern Song dynasty, it was also said to have been written by someone else. Some says it was the teachings and last words of some of Confucius's 70 disciples. There are such claims as well, but no matter what, in our Buddhist scriptures, filial piety towards one's parents is considered a great virtue, including the Ulambana festival might be next Saturday. Well, at that time in the morning, we also plan to recite the sutra. In this way, it's also salvation for all sentient beings or our parents. Here, perhaps, cultural concepts differ. The classic of filial piety discusses only principles of being filial to parents in this lifetime. But in our Buddhist scriptures, we are not only grateful to the parents who raised us in this life, but in our actions and conduct, we should embody gratitude, repaying kindness and remembering kindness through our behavior. And for future lives, it is even more important to plant a good seed of virtue. Therefore, some people in the past, due to ignorance or arrogance, may have offended their parents or disturbed their parents' hearts, and have done many things that went against their parents' wishes. It is very much necessary for us, before we eventually die, if our parents are still alive, to confess in front of them. In the past, because I was immature and disobedient, and for various reasons, there were still things I did wrong. Today I am especially confessing to you in person, and so on. Just like in some of our Vajrayana practices, if the Guru is still alive, we confess face to face. If the Guru is no longer alive, we confess in front of their image. I believe, by analogy, it is the same with our parents. Sometimes I also think, by comparison, maybe I wasn't someone who made my parents worry too much, but I often went against their wishes and did many such things. But sometimes, when I really think about it now, I realize, back then I should have done certain things in a different way. There are a lot of such thoughts of differentiation, I suppose. Sometimes, through certain other actions or stories, these feelings of longing are triggered. So today we will continue to talk about Chapter 12 of the Extensive Essential Path. Here, extensive means to promote, and essential path refers to the important way or principle. So Extensive Essential Path is about promoting the most important and wonderful way of filial piety culture. Next, we will discuss the content of promoting filial piety from roughly 4 aspects. Confucius said, to teach the people to be affectionate, nothing is better than filial piety. First, when educating his people, one must ensure they live in harmony and love each other. As a ruler, he must educate all his subjects under him. Everyone gets along harmoniously and loves each other. In this case, for the ruler himself, nothing is more important than valuing filial piety. Nothing is more important than being truly filial to one's own parents. If you truly want everyone under your rule to respect and love each other, to achieve this, the ruler must genuinely start with himself. How should he do this? By being filial to his own parents and respectful to elders. If you are truly filial and respectful to your elders, then this is the best approach. Because in truly everything that we actually do, in reality, just telling others verbally is not enough. You should do it yourself. Even when we manage projects, just simply sitting in the office and giving orders to everyone is truly useless. If you go in person, it is very much better indeed. In all of the things we do, if you take the lead yourself, sometimes you don't even need to say much. Especially if you are a ruler or a person in charge. Everyone below you is influenced, so you are the one primarily responsible. Your actions are indeed very critically important in this matter. For example, the atmosphere of a school is closely related to its principal. The entire culture of study and practice in a monastery is also directly connected to the abbot or the person who is in charge. Similarly, by extension, the head of a household as well. Whether it's the esteemed ruler of a country or the respected head of a village, their significant actions directly and profoundly affect the words and behavior of those under them. I think this was mentioned in the ancient Analects, wasn't it? If one's conduct is upright, others will follow without being told. If one's conduct is not upright, even if you give orders, they won't be obeyed. This should be from the Analects, right? If the ruler himself is upright, then without issuing any orders, those below will naturally follow the right path. If your own behavior is not upright, even if you give orders all day long, those below you will not obey or listen to your commands at all. So, within the 6 perfections and the 4 means of attraction, especially among the 4 means of attraction, there are quite similar and closely related meanings. So, what exactly is being discussed here then? Filial piety and respect for one's parents. This is extremely important. Looking back in history, for example, Emperor Wen of Han Liu Heng, during his reign, also carried out many reforms at that time. According to some historical records, he was the first to grant a general amnesty to the whole country. Recently, it seems that North Korea has also been doing something similar, though of course it wasn't on such a large scale. At that time, he pardoned and released many people who were imprisoned, something like that. The second thing he did was to carry out reforms and organize large-scale elderly care activities. That is to say, throughout the entire country, people over the age of 80 received certain benefits, and those over 90 years of age received even more significant benefits. So elderly people all over the entire country, through his benevolent regime and government, were directly provided with essential manpower and crucial financial assistance. Actually, as devout Buddhists, sometimes this is also very much necessary for us. We should start with ourselves. For example, if we are a monastery, then we should consider whether the parents of the monastics in the monastery are facing any difficulties. If they are facing significant difficulties, how does our monastery effectively address and resolve these challenges for them? If it is a Dharma center, the Dharma center should first consider the parents and elders of the people within the center itself, and we should think about their living conditions and well-being. This is something we have been advocating for the past few years. Now, in many places, it is also being said that for some of our monastics and for the parents of some of our Buddhists, preparations are being made to establish nursing homes. There are quite a few people who are providing support in this regard. So, for those of us who are other relevant, responsible persons, when these situations arise, we should do our best to integrate resources. Because there are some elderly people who have no one to care for them, and there are some kind-hearted people who have these resources, including nursing homes and many other ideas in this area. I have met many truly compassionate and dedicated people who really want to do something significant for elder care, because in the future, even in China, it will become almost precisely the same as Japan, because for nearly 30 years before, the strict one-child policy was implemented. So now, in many families, some of their children have already left. Some have become monastics, and some haven't become monastics, but live exactly like monks or nuns. The only difference is they have hair, but in all other aspects, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, they are basically just like monastics in every way. Among our lay practitioners, we call them ancient-minded lay people, as mentioned in the treatise on the 3 precepts. There are people like this who are neither lay practitioners nor monastics, but basically their parents, grandparents, and so on still need to be cared for. In this situation, some of us really want to do good deeds. Some people may not have the time themselves, but are willing to contribute financially. Some people can provide certain conveniences like offering a place for practice, and even some, at times like this, there is a need for certain people. There should be a selfless mindset to integrate these resources. Before I started the foundation, I always thought to myself there was no breakthrough, nor any entry point. Later on, after successfully finding some good entry points, I now feel quite happy and content inside. Indeed, sometimes it is possible because some college students need financial support. Some people want to do these things and some want to contribute their own labor. Some contribute financially while others contribute with their wisdom. At this point, we bring together all these different causes and conditions. We have a common platform. Eventually, it gradually becomes formalized and legalized. When doing this, we must, for example, go through all the necessary procedures so that everything becomes legal. In this way, things become well organized moving forward. Once things are truly organized, it can indeed benefit many countless people. Even after we have left this world in our lifetime, but such platforms and organizations are very likely to continue to exist. Some organizations, both abroad and in our own country, have already become century-old charitable institutions. They have always operated smoothly and very well. So in the future, it's not enough to just talk about filial piety in words. We need to see what can be done in practice, including some of the Dharma teachers here. In the future, whether you return to your own village or your own hometown, the first thing you should consider is your own area. If your own area truly lacks the capacity, then there's no other way but to go somewhere else. For example, starting a business in places like Africa is also necessary. But if it's your very own hometown after all, that's precisely where you grew up. It's the exact place where you cried your very first cry in life. That particular place bears your indelible traces and your habits are deeply rooted there. So we should endeavor to do something truly meaningful, starting right from that place. If it's truly impossible to achieve this in your own local area, then you absolutely have to choose another suitable place. This is what I just mentioned, whether from the perspective of compassion or as a ruler, if the people under him are to care for one another. The first thing is to value filial piety, to emphasize being filial. That's the first aspect. And then the second aspect is to teach the people courtesy and obedience. Nothing is better than brotherly respect. If this wise ruler educates his people so that they are both courteous and obedient and very well mannered indeed, so what is the best way for the ruler himself? He should value the principle of brotherly respect. In other words, what is meant here by brotherly respect is just like what is described in the standards for being a good student and child. There is a kind of affection between brothers. Earlier, the love between parents and elders should be a sense of reverence, right? If you really want everyone to always be very polite to each other, to be obedient and compliant with one another, and to possess such virtues, people's qualities vary greatly. In some places, people are quite uncivilized. They are truly unreasonable and have absolutely no rules at all. Places like that, especially those with relatively little culture, in places truly lacking culture, that's just precisely how things are. If you want the people below you to behave this way, you must start with yourself first. What is the best way to do this? It's like how you treat your brothers and sisters. You should begin within your circle first. Otherwise, if you yourself, when it comes to your brothers and sisters, don't speak to each other, this happens a lot now, both in Tibetan and Han areas. Because of complex property disputes, or for all sorts of other complicated and varied reasons, these situations are quite commonly encountered. But it's always best if we have a sense of love and harmony among brothers and sisters. Just like in the standards for being a good student and child, it also says, older brothers should be friendly, younger brothers respectful. When brothers live in harmony, filial piety naturally arises. In fact, the elder brother's role is to be friendly, while the younger siblings should show respect to their elders. If brothers and sisters often get along harmoniously, filial piety toward parents is also present. The broader concept of filial culture mentioned earlier is also reflected here. But nowadays, it seems many people lack this. Whether it's younger brothers and sisters or older brothers and sisters, there is little sense of reverence or respect. If this culture continues to be passed down, it isn't ideal in daily life. I think I mentioned this when I talked about the standards for being a good student and child. When I was young and herding yaks, I had two relatives, and in one of their families, from the parents on down, there was constant quarreling every day. They would call each other all sorts of very, very unpleasant names. Then the older ones would start hitting the younger ones, and the younger ones would in turn hit those even younger. As soon as you walked in, their house was in an uproar. Every day there was crying, and they would use things to hit each other. There were about a dozen children in their family, a lot of kids. When we went in, their eldest son, who was the same age as me, and also born in the year of the tiger, and then there were more than 10 other children, all younger than him. It was extremely noisy, incredibly lively, and quite chaotic, but it seemed like they all, on the eldest son's head alone, we once carefully counted 9 distinct scars. But later on, when they entered society, things really didn't go very well for them, because whether it was stealing or whatever, they did a lot of things that weren't very moral. There's another family I know who are also considered our relatives. But when you went into their family home, the older brothers and sisters would always look after their younger siblings, taking care of them. And the younger ones were also very good to them. The parents were especially kind to everyone too, because their ages were all pretty close. But later on, the quality of the people in their family, even though in our area there weren't higher positions or statuses because their intelligence had limitations, but after they grew up, in all aspects of society, whether male or female, you could say they were successful in their own way. So sometimes maybe when we're young, if we're disrespectful to our parents or to our older siblings, to be completely honest with you, this really isn't a very good thing at all. It seems that in the storehouse of sundry valuables in the Buddhist scriptures, I've forgotten some details, but I can still talk about it a bit. There was a king who had 4 wives. Both the first and second wives had eldest sons. The third wife also had one, and I think the fourth wife did too. Logically, the eldest son of the first wife was also the oldest in age, and he possessed something truly special, like a most precious treasure. This remarkable treasure could effectively subdue and defeat many opponents, so he was indeed extremely capable. He himself was also very wise and highly competent. Everyone thought that after the king passed away, he would be the one to inherit the throne, because whether it was his age or other aspects, it should have been that way. But as for the king himself, among his 4 wives, He was especially affectionate with the third wife, and their bond was quite unique. One time he said to the third wife, "Whatever request you have, no matter what it is, I will definitely fulfill it for you." At that time she said, "I don't have any requests right now. If I have one in the future, can I tell you then?" Just remember this important fact. Later, the powerful king fell gravely ill and was about to depart from this world forever. At that moment, the third wife made her request. She said, "According to your previous promise, let my son inherit your throne." Is that possible? At that time, the king thought to himself, this actually doesn't follow the rules. It didn't conform to their traditions and rules. But because he loved her so much, for that reason, and also because he had previously promised, he readily agreed. After agreeing to this arrangement, he then handed over his royal throne to the son of his third wife. At that particular time, it seemed to be his second son. He asked his older brother, "Why is he the one to inherit? Why isn't it you? This really seems quite unfair." He was dissatisfied with both the king and the third wife. At this very moment, the eldest brother told him, "I truly think this is a good thing. Do you know precisely why? The first and most important reason is that this was entirely our father's decision. So as someone who respects their parents, we should absolutely respect it. 10,000%. Nowadays, some people often say 10,000%. We should respect his wishes. The second reason is that the third wife was especially loved by my father. If I can't follow his wishes, then I would be going against my father's will. The third reason is that actually our third brother, he himself is also a very good person. If he inherits the throne, I believe he will be able to uphold it, so I have no objections at all. But after the third prince inherited the throne, perhaps it was the third wife's idea at the time, she requested that the two elder brothers, the sons of the first and second wives, not be allowed to enter the palace for 12 years, and that they should leave the country and go to a rather quiet, secluded place. Later, because of her, the king had no choice but to issue an order. After the order was given, they left their own country and went elsewhere. Later, when the third son came to inherit the throne, at that time he saw that his two elder brothers had already left and his father had already passed away. At this moment he felt very unhappy in his heart. He thought that this must have been orchestrated by his own mother, so he was also very dissatisfied with his mother. He demanded that his two elder brothers return and inherit the throne. And at that time the mother was also unwilling, but there was nothing she could do. So he personally went to call his two elder brothers, his own siblings. The two brothers were probably living in a quiet place. That's just my guess. I'm not sure if it's clearly stated in the scripture. Then he asked them both to come back and eventually, in due course, inherit his rightful throne. Actually, the three brothers were all very good people. Sometimes, truly, among us humans within our own close family, among several brothers, sometimes all of them are very good people. Sometimes one of them is really bad and makes everyone especially unhappy. And sometimes the whole family is just like the example I mentioned about my relatives earlier. They would argue every day. Even now, when I think about it, it still feels quite something. Whenever I pass by that place now, I often think of their home. When I went to Luhuo, I often stayed nearby, and their family often lived there. Because they were our relatives when I was little, I often went to some of those places. At that particular time, it was situated in the township, not the county. I would often go to the township to play and spend some time. When I eventually came back, I would frequently stay at their house for a while. There really is quite a difference. The brothers I mentioned earlier were very good. The youngest brother went to call his two older brothers to come back and inherit the throne. But the two of them said, "We won't come back for 12 years. If we come back, we would be going against our father's teachings." In the end, when he really wouldn't come, he brought back a pair of his brother's shoes. After he brought them back, he placed them on the king's throne. Every time there was a significant court meeting or any other major event, he would first respectfully bow to his elder brother's shoes and then make his important decisions. This clearly shows the profound respect he consistently had for his elder brother. Later, when the 12 years were up, the two older brothers also returned. After they came back, the eldest brother continued to inherit the throne. Their entire country enjoyed favorable weather, and the people lived and worked in peace and contentment. Many joyful and auspicious signs appeared, clearly indicating good fortune. So, whether it is a country or just our very own family, everyone may play a very different role indeed. You can also think about how many siblings you have in your family and how many siblings your relatives have. What are their personalities like, and what is your own personality like? Are you truly united and close with your siblings? and you don't bully those below you, and you should have a sense of respect for those above you. Now, I can truly see that in some Western cultures, basically, it's like you're a person and I'm a person too. There's not much mutual respect or courtesy between us. It's more like you take from me, I take from you. It's all about who is truly more capable, who is simply smarter. Other than that, there's no any real sense of respect between people at all. If there's no sense of respect, whether it's in Buddhism or in Confucian thought, this is indeed a very important concept and principle. So this sense of respect is also very important. In places like Japan and Korea, it's still present nowadays. This profound sense of respect has always been carefully maintained. When people meet, sometimes they will bow, say yoshi. That's the second point. So if we truly want everyone to be polite, whether it's with your beloved siblings or your cherished Dharma friends, there must also be profound mutual respect and genuine reverence. Honestly, I truly think recently, among some of the senior Dharma friends here, some of the Khenpos, when everyone gathers together, I truly see that they are all especially respectful to each other. Each and every one of them is indeed quite remarkable. Even if it's just in a temporary setting, they've all contributed something significant to Buddhism. So when I see these Dharma friends, they are all very respectful. Therefore, some of our lay practitioners should not be arrogant. Sometimes a person's true behavior is quite easy to see through. The inner sense of reverence, the inner humility, and the genuine joy we really feel toward each other, these are truly important. Especially when we are in a Dharma center, studying and practicing together, regardless of whether you have a good connection with someone or not. You must maintain an inner sense of respect. This is indeed really very important. The brotherly respect we talk about here, if we are to discuss this path of respect, is not just about the relationships between brothers in the mundane world, especially about our Vajra brothers and sisters. I mentioned this days ago. Everyone is in the same mandala, practicing the same Dharma. It's like we went to kindergarten or elementary school. After 5 or 6 years of elementary school, we remember where our classmates are now. But nowadays, as Buddhists, it seems we don't have this kind of concept. I find it very strange. Logically speaking, as classmates, last year I saw that in some places in Sichuan, their class had already graduated after 4 years. And after graduation, whenever anyone encountered difficulties in different places, they would all help each other. Because they studied the Bodhikaryavattara together. In the end, they started taking graduation photos and sending them to me. I truly think this is precisely how it should be. No matter whether you diligently study for 5 years or even 10 years, now here in our region, some Tibetan civil servants, when they go to places like Beijing or Shanghai for further training, whether it's a year of advanced study or a year of temporary assignment, they also develop a kind of camaraderie as classmates. They'll say, where are the classmates I trained or studied with during my assignment? If anything comes up, I'll take care of it. My classmates are now scattered all over the country, in every corner, so whatever I need to do, there's no problem at all. People in the world today all have this kind of bond. But as for us Buddhists, it seems like we're becoming more and more unwilling to see people or to talk to others. Maybe it's because our practice is going well. I think if your practice is truly improving, then that's a different matter entirely. If you really don't want to see anyone because you're about to attain rainbow body realization, then at that point it's perfectly fine not to see people. But if you haven't reached that level of realization either, and you don't even have the kind of bond that classmates in the secular world have, then I wonder if our Buddhist practice is actually worse than that of ordinary people. When people in the world study together in the same classroom for a period of time, they end up forming a very lasting bond. For example, I attended elementary school for over 2 years, and now when I look back, all those people are still my classmates. And during the 3 years of middle school, we often gathered together as well. It's already been 30 or 40 years now, but everyone still has that kind of bond. I hope that in our Dharma classes, for example, we have many classes here, logic class, Madhyamaka class, and so on. But it seems that when the Madhyamaka class graduates, they don't even have the kind of connection that ordinary people do. Maybe it's because they've studied Madhyamaka too deeply and seen through everything. So all relationships have been completely refuted and everyone has turned into prasangika practitioners. There's no self, right? No acknowledgement. Maybe that's the reason. I believe that's probably the case. That's the second issue. I can't talk too much first, otherwise I won't be able to finish later. Next I'll talk about, of all the various ways to truly change customs and habits, none is better than music. As a wise ruler, if he genuinely wants to change some undesirable trends or some bad habits and customs, whether it's the general social atmosphere or the people's hearts, if you want to reform these things, then when considering the most effective method, it is clear that nothing truly surpasses the profound influence of music. If you want to fundamentally change the entire social atmosphere, you should thoughtfully incorporate it into various forms of art and integrate it deeply into the broader culture. For example, when we used to do charity work, they said the very first thing you absolutely must do is to create a charity song. Then, through the power of that song, we can truly change our hearts. Even before it was officially established, I had already started writing the lyrics and music. Giving someone a rose leaves a lingering fragrance on your hand, right? So I started writing things like that. Broadly speaking, whether it's movies, television, or all these entertainment activities, because culture has already been integrated into them, and that's very important. If there's some culture within these, people might be subtly influenced by frequently singing, watching, and listening. So throughout history, it was precisely the same in every single country, right? For example, if they truly wanted to carry out some significant political reforms, if they wanted to overthrow some old ideas from before, they would launch a very sharp and incisive critique against the old established ideas. And then, through singing, people would forget those outdated customs. If they truly wanted to establish a new and vibrant culture, they would also begin to praise, extol, and celebrate it in another significant way. So for us Buddhists, sometimes it's also very necessary, for example, to praise bodhicitta or to praise our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Including releasing animals or doing many other things, we can use singing and culture as a medium. Even watching certain so-called programs regularly is also necessary. There are many beautiful morning and evening chants in Han Chinese regions, which may also be related to the sacred voices of devas or certain revered yidams. In Tibet, we also have many profound Vajra songs. In the past, when the Karmapa crossed the snowy mountains, they spoke of distant hope or something like that. At that time, when they had traveled a certain distance, it became extremely difficult. At that moment, it seemed that a celestial maiden sent them a very soothing song. Relying on this song, they finally crossed the snowy mountains and overcame the hardship. Later, some beautiful and moving melodies were also left behind. Our guru, the Precious One, also once, it should be recorded in his biography, went to some pure lands. During the gathering of Dakinis, he heard the songs sung by the Dakinis at the feast offering. Then, when he returned to the human world, he did not forget those songs. He basically remembered all the lyrics as well and wrote them down. Anyway, there are many Vajra songs, including some, for example, when we recite the aspiration prayer of Dzogchen, or the King of Aspiration prayers, these sounds also bring many people. You see, some who go on pilgrimages or travel to sacred mountains have never had faith. But after they hear the chanting of the King of Aspiration prayers once, they feel, wow, this is soothing, and immediately develop faith in the Dharma. If we focus on listening, contemplating, practicing, ignore everything else, not right. All the various skillful means and methods of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are also very necessary. Right? They are absolutely necessary. So this is the third important point. So in the future, when we engage in some cultural activities or promotion, there will still be some aspects related to art. Actually, regarding so-called art, I once talked about this at a certain school. No matter where in the world it is located, what people commonly call art is actually a crystallization of wisdom that naturally flows from a person's mind. Why does it possess such powerful and significant influence? Why can it truly attract so many people? There are certainly several compelling reasons for this. So why is it that so many people nowadays are especially eager to become celebrities? Many people think, wow, so-and-so just sings really, really well, or that performance was excellent, and so on. Some celebrities and singers, whether it's their voices or the way their expressions change, also bring a kind of culture. This is something worth considering as well. To bring peace to the ruler and govern the people, nothing is better than propriety. Here, if one is a ruler, he must first stabilize himself, bring peace to the ruler, or he is able to govern all the people below him. First, he himself must be secure and confident. There should be no obstacles from any side, no rebellions or uprisings and so on. At the same time, he should be able to settle the people's hearts and govern the entire land. So, what is the best way to achieve this? Nothing is better than propriety, showing proper etiquette to others. So, what exactly is meant by the so-called propriety? Propriety is simply respect. Here, the propriety being referred to, in fact, this propriety. Earlier we talked about love, propriety, and also harmony. Here it refers specifically to propriety. After that, love, filial piety, harmony, and propriety. These four can all be summed up together. All of these four, in the end, can be traced back to one thing, and that is the word respect. This respect is of great importance. Why is respect considered so truly important? In Buddhism, indeed, respect for one's parents and respect for teachers and elders are both. And as for respect, it should be like how our Buddha demonstrated it. Just like we learned last year in the Lotus Sutra, it is mentioned. Didn't Bodhisattva never disparaging say, "I do not dare to look down upon all of you. All of you will become Buddhas." He would often say this sentence. He said, "I dare not look down upon you or completely ignore you." Why is that, you might ask? Because in the future, you will all certainly become enlightened Buddhas. Therefore, I must truly respect you, just as the Buddha himself would have done. You will all, without exception, eventually become enlightened Buddhas. This is precisely how he consistently demonstrated his profound respect. So in our cherished Buddhist tradition, as disciples, we have great reverence for our teachers. Just as Master Yingguang said, with the highest level of respect, you receive the highest level of blessings. A medium level of respect brings a medium level of blessings, and a lower level of respect brings a lower level of blessings. This is also what Patrul Rinpoche taught. So this kind of respect is not just superficial. For example, it's not just about prostrating on the road. It's not like that. It means genuinely respecting and admiring their virtues from the heart. Sometimes it seems like we've listened to quite a few teachings from our very own teachers ourselves, because the teachings they give are truly especially beneficial and incredibly helpful to me. Because of this reason, I naturally feel convinced and sincerely respectful in their presence. I truly show deep respect and profound reverence before them. Because of the truly immense and significant benefits they have brought to me, perhaps no worldly parents or teachers, my friends, or even my own family could ever provide such benefits. If it weren't for these teachings, I might still be extremely confused and in pain. I might even fall into much lower realms for countless lifetimes in the future. Sometimes I truly think, nowadays some of us, whether part of the association or not, many people, because they've come to understand some Buddhist principles, if they've understood some Buddhist principles, we can't really say that we've practiced exceptionally well, or that we've reached enlightenment or insight. We wouldn't dare make such claims. But at the least, our actions are somewhat restrained. What kind of restraint, indeed? It's quite obvious, isn't it? If we hadn't studied Mahayana Buddhism well, it's very likely that every single day we'd be eating seafood and taking lives. That might have been the case for my whole life. If I hadn't taken refuge in the Three Jewels, hadn't become a monk, and hadn't studied Buddhism, perhaps in this lifetime I would have killed countless living beings. It was the teachings of my teachers that stopped me from committing these wrongdoings. I feel that in this life I should consider myself very fortunate. Let's not talk about anything else, especially many of you living in big cities. Indeed, if I hadn't taken refuge and become a monk, perhaps by now I wouldn't even know how many lives I had taken. So, for what we've done before, we should sincerely repent. And as for the future, perhaps before I die, I may not necessarily become an especially accomplished practitioner, but at the very least I won't intentionally take lives. So just from this profound perspective alone, whether it's to my esteemed teachers or to the venerable lineage masters, we should indeed have a deep sense of reverence, shouldn't we? For example, if a benevolent boss genuinely helps someone who used to wander aimlessly and without direction, and in the end solves all his basic needs for food, clothing, and also his essential shelter financially, then that person no longer needs to wander. He now has a stable job and a fulfilling life of his very own. If that particular person is truly grateful, if he is indeed such a person, he will undoubtedly have great respect for that boss. He absolutely would. So when we carefully think about this profound scripture, these Buddhist scriptures, it's not that it completely lacks content, it still possesses a certain significant meaning. So when it comes to every sentient being, if we look at it from the perspective of the equality between Buddhas and sentient beings, this is also a way of showing respect. If we're talking about Mahayana Buddhism, then we should show equal reverence to every sentient being. The basis for practicing Dharma is both sentient beings and Buddhas. To respect Buddhas but not sentient beings, how could that make sense? This is something everyone recites daily from the Bodhicharyavatara, isn't it? Because in terms of the causes and conditions for practicing Buddhism, Buddhas and sentient beings are the same. If we only show respect to Buddhas but not to sentient beings, then such a lack of respect is unreasonable. Ideally, we should have a respectful attitude toward all sentient beings. If we lack such respect in Mahayana Buddhism, if we don't have this kind of respect, at the very least we should have respect for our own teachers and our own parents. And what is the reason for this? Therefore, if you respect his father, the son will be pleased. So, when we have a respectful attitude, for example, if you show great respect to someone's father, then his son will be very happy. If you respect his elder brother, the younger brother will be pleased. If you show respect to his elder brother, then his younger siblings will also be very happy. If you respect his ruler, the ministers will be pleased. If you consistently show great respect and profound reverence to the esteemed ruler or monarch of a country, then the entire populace and all the diligent officials under his leadership will also be very happy and content. By respecting one person, millions will be pleased. If you show respect to one person, like the teacher we just mentioned, then all his disciples will likely be very happy as well. If you truly respect a ruler, then those under him will also be very happy indeed. The one you respect may be few, but those who are pleased are many. The person you respect may be just one, but because he is important, all those who are truly connected to him will also be very happy and indeed content. Conversely, if we do not respect the father, his son will be unhappy. If we do not respect the elder brother, his younger siblings will be displeased. If we do not respect the ruler, then all the ministers under him will be unhappy. If we speak ill of a country's leader, then everyone in the nation will be displeased. If we say something about the abbot of a monastery, all his lineage disciples will be unhappy. Actually, this is also a kind of natural law. On the other hand, if we often praise and show respect to them, then everyone associated with them will also be very respectful. Although nowadays many people are influenced by Western education and believe that everyone is equal, in some respects we are indeed equal, but in some situations true equality is not possible. Even when facing some teachers in the West, if I act superior in front of them, they won't be very happy either. If you show them great respect, they are also very pleased. If it comes from the heart and isn't just an act, it should make them genuinely happy. The Treasury of Aphorisms also says, arrogance makes people ignorant. I think we mentioned this the other day, didn't we? Desire makes people shameless. If one often looks down on their own attendants and servants, then this particular leader is bound to decline. It truly means that arrogance often makes people ignorant and severely lacking in wisdom. If your desires are very strong, you won't feel any shame in front of others. Because people with intense desires have no sense of shame in front of others. And if you often look down on other people's family members or your own family members, for example, if you constantly belittle your subordinates or those close to you every day, then such a leader or ruler will not last long. On the other hand, if a supervisor treats the people under them really very, very well, then he will flourish like a green tree, thriving greatly. He will certainly have a very bright and promising future ahead of him. Therefore, this is fundamentally about showing respect. I sincerely hope that many of us here, some individuals are simply too tough, too strong-willed, including those within a department, no matter who that person might be. If you often talk back to your supervisor, or frequently, whether openly or not, make all kinds of comments, actually, this is an unethical behavior. For example, if he is the head of the department here, he may not be as good as you in some areas, but in others he should surpass you. So, in Larung, whoever was the person in charge at the time, everyone respected him greatly. Even if what he said wasn't entirely reasonable, we would still accept it on the spot. So this is something in many places that we should really understand, this concept of management. He is a person in charge. If his actions are excessively selfish and self-serving, then you can tell him both to his face and behind his back. But if that's not the case, this is a relationship between a ruler and his ministers. So some staff members are never able to communicate well with their superiors. There are two reasons for this. One reason is that the education they received in the past seemed to emphasize equality. Why should you manage me or I manage you? What's the difference? It may seem reasonable, but in reality that's not how it is. In front of your father you say, you old man, what's so great about you? Come on, if you really can't handle it, I'll beat you up. If you say things like that, do others see this as reasonable or not? It's the same principle. Every organization has some supervisors. For example, in a school there are teachers, whether it's the homeroom teacher or the principal, there are these roles. So you must learn to show respect. Oh, my intelligence is the same as his, my height is the same as his. I'm the same as him in every way. I'm even taller than him, and my intelligence is even My Mandarin is even better than his. So nowadays, when people possess just a bit of intelligence themselves, they often become arrogant because of it. That's precisely why many individuals can't truly think of others' other merits, and only focus on the one merit they're particularly attached to, and start to look down on others. This is really not good. We should consider things comprehensively. Other people have their own leadership roles, and that's not without reason. From this perspective, you should learn to be respectful. Here at Larung, some in certain departments show no respect. When someone above speaks, those below immediately talk back. You say one thing, they retort with 10. This is very unfilial, very lacking in wisdom, and very lacking in morality. Some of you who especially love to argue are definitely able to talk back. Some people among us just love to argue because that's been their specialty since childhood. So especially when it comes to insulting language, they're particularly skilled at it. Their vocabulary is extremely rich, even richer than when studying Madhyamaka, though there's no scriptural support for it. People like this can definitely win an argument, but that's not really a good thing. So I hope that in the future, for us, for example, in a class, the Dharma teacher is like a king. If the Dharma teacher really makes a mistake, still, after all, he has transmitted the Dharma and shown such great kindness. And whether it's our department or whatever the situation may be, once he has spoken, it should truly count. Everyone should always show respect. This is very important. Being polite is indeed part of our traditional culture. But now, many of us have become people who are neither one thing nor the other. If we truly became Westerners, it seems we lack the virtues, tolerance, foresight, and wisdom of Westerners as well. And if we are Easterners, Asians, all the traditional values of Asians have already disappeared. So, caught between the old and the new eras, we ourselves have become people who are neither here nor there. Therefore, as Buddhists, I often see that when some management meetings are held, I hear some of the feedback from those below, and sometimes it's fine to speak openly, but when it's time to listen, we should also listen. Sometimes giving constructive criticism is a good and necessary thing, but when it comes to major fundamental principles, there's absolutely no need to always be dissatisfied with the leader's established position. If you yourself lack this merit and are always dissatisfied with the leader, this is a problem of character. So I hope that people in management positions everywhere, as managers, should not be selfish and think, I am a manager, I am the steward, I am remarkable, and that everyone else is there to serve me, just like Brahma the Great. Brahma the Great thinks, they are all my sons, all my children. He acts as if he is high above, without a mindset of service. In our world today, dictatorship is often used. With this dictatorial mindset, one thinks, what I say goes. I have to suppress and control everyone. I want to fire them. I want to remove them. One shouldn't have such malice. If a supervisor harbors such malice, then the whole team is already doomed. And those below must also, as the precious guru once said, show respect to those above, get along harmoniously with peers, and be compassionate and caring to those below. I think this is a truly excellent and precious teaching. So being a good person is very important. Otherwise, if you don't do well as a person, you'll still be among people and you'll continue to suffer. But if you conduct yourself well, no matter what environment you're in, you'll handle things well. Some of us truly, maybe at first, didn't do very well in terms of personal conduct, but after learning these teachings, we should have improved a lot. I don't even dare to say that I have attained any high level of realization in Buddhism, but over these past few years, whether interacting with Tibetans, Han Chinese, or people from other backgrounds, I personally think I might be just passing. Maybe others would give me a score of 40 or 30 out of 100. But as for myself, no matter what kind of person I'm dealing with, when it comes to those above me, I always show them respect, regardless of who they are. If I'm with people of average status, I also treat them very well. If I'm with people who, in some respects, might be considered a bit beneath me, whether that's in terms of status or in other aspects, I still sincerely and wholeheartedly serve them all. So I truly and indeed hope that many of us, if you possess these virtues, don't become arrogant. If you truly don't possess these important virtues, please don't be pessimistic all the time. Otherwise, all these negative things will just accumulate. I'm so pitiful, I'm so sad, I'm in so much pain, I'm so sorrowful, I'm so hopeless. It truly feels like living in this entire world has absolutely no meaning at all. It seems as though even the heavens are truly unfair to me, and everyone genuinely hates me. Even just now, I clearly saw a black crow at the door, and it too seemed quite unfriendly to me. If you allow all these sorrowful and negative thoughts to constantly attack yourself, it's truly unnecessary. I deeply believe that as we live in this vast world, within our rich traditional culture, sometimes what it teaches is exactly the same as what we have in Buddhism. Respect for others is truly very important. In Buddhism, we always emphasize respect, and there are many honorifics. You see, in Buddhism, there are indeed many such honorifics. So this is called the essential path. This is truly the most crucial and profoundly important path for us to follow in this world. I hope that after studying the classic of filial piety, there will definitely still be conflicts and disputes between people. These are all normal phenomena, but the most important thing is, whether it's the problems we discover or the difficulties we solve, we must have a very important way of handling them. In this way, many issues in the world won't be difficult to deal with. This way, even spiritual practice may become much easier. Some of us don't do well in our practice, and what is the reason for that? It's truly because we don't get along well with our fellow practitioners. We don't have good relationships with the Dharma teachers or with the stewards. In our institute, I have now become quite used to this. There are many people who originally practiced very well, had good wisdom, and had strong renunciation, but in the end, they couldn't stay. Because they had conflicts with this person, couldn't stand that person, and with another person. They switched classes several times, but the more they switched, the worse it got. In the end, they had switched through all the classes, and every single Dharma teacher had a poor impression of them. In the end, they also chose to go to another spiritual center, but at that other center, it was precisely the same story. At first, they would call the teachers there Dad and Mom, just like here. But in the end, it seemed even Dad and Mom couldn't help them anymore. So first and foremost, we must not have problems with our conduct as people. We should have our own fundamental principles. We should practice in a truly proper and good way. All right, that's all for today.
Om